Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Einav Avni. I am an energy healer and alignment coach. I always nearly say accountability coach, which I'm not. But anyway, I use the emotion code, body code, and belief code together with alignment coaching to help people suffering from chronic pain, chronic illness, or unexplained medical conditions to heal or reduce their symptoms. Healing Conversations for Anything Chronic is a podcast that really wants to bring awareness to people that healing yourself naturally is possible. And so you're here for a reason. Let's get this show started. And today, let's welcome our guest, Corey Lyon Folsom. Corey, it is so nice to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So tell us. Let's start. Tell us something about you.
Well, I'm a father, I'm a love and relationship coach, and an author.
Yes, and let's start digging a little bit deeper. So I
Yeah.
know that we're going to talk about soul statement for healing. I'm already very curious about this title, and I'm looking forward to hearing about this and about you and what brought you to where
Sure.
you are today.
Well, as a young man, I just was not at all good about speaking up for my needs, my desires. And so I was, the nice guy, or you can say, the GUISE, the nice guys. and and I thought the world would be terrific and respond wonderfully the nicer I was, and the
Mm.
more upstanding and do everything right kind of thing. And so I was an Eagle Scout, and I just really tried to be a good person. So, but life didn't quite work out as I expected. I had, my early intimate relationships were just, the communication was terrible, and um, I didn't know how to express anything I wanted in any kind of skillful way, and so uh, I spent a lot of time just not speaking up, and going along to get along, and just different terrible strategies. And so I just basically made myself smaller and smaller. I shrank from my certainty, my exuberance, and my desires. And so at some point, enough was enough. I had to decide to change, and I didn't know what change would look like. I didn't know. I just knew that this wasn't acceptable or working in any kind of fashion. So I started with personal development courses and trainings, uh, learning how to communicate better, a lot of communication type trainings. And but the communication really wasn't, when it becomes effective, it isn't just because, oh, I know what to say. It's more, I'm grounded in myself, and I have a commitment to speaking up, and hopefully with some measure or degree of skill. And so that commitment to yourself, to say, I'm not going to just abandon my heart any longer, but that I'll just stand up and speak my truth. And 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 also the courses would help me do that in a way that's respectful to everyone. So that's really how it all got going. And so I like to say, when I stopped practicing what wasn't really me, everything changed for the better.
That's so interesting. I think what you're basically saying is one of the biggest challenges that we are all experiencing of that thing. How do I know what is authentically me? What, without seeing what doesn't work, basically. And so often, like you said, we go along to get along, and we don't actually realize that this is what we're doing. So here we are feeling that something is out of alignment, something that is not really working out, but we are so scared. We're scared to be ourselves. We're scared to be rejected. We are scared that we're not going to, well, to receive love or be accepted. And I guess at some point we say, well, fine, I'll get along. I won't mention what I really need, because also then we bring up the question of boundaries, and people are so scared of putting up boundaries. And it's kind of from the frying pan to the fire, and here you are saying that actually you've learned how to do this. So wow.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if if when you try to speak up for yourself in some way and it just ends up being very quickly an argument, and the argument is so distasteful, you kind of think, well, it's just not worth it. So,
Right. Yes, that's the learning. So tell me, what did you discover? What is the secret to a happy or authentic communication?
sure. Well, I think there's not just one little key, but in general, I learned that my power is connected to my fearlessness, my my saying what I have to say and let the chips fall where they may. And and that doesn't mean I go around telling everyone what I think of them, or I'm just going to be a dummy dog jerk now and I get to just be, me. It's it's just being certain about my value and what I value, and just saying that. And so, and to know that I'm a loved child of God, and that everything works out. And
Mm.
there's a saying I like. It says, "Everything works out in the end." And if it's not working out, it means it's not the end. And I also learned that life is happening for me, not just to me. And so, wow, I've had these different experiences. Maybe I didn't enjoy them, but I grew maybe in self-compassion, or understanding of what other people go through, or I just developed as a person, just more sensitivity and more patience and more tolerance, just because I had seen hardship in myself and others. Uh, and so I also learned that the world doesn't necessarily respond well to just because I want something, but it will respond to my presence, my showing up and being engaged and being truthful and being in present time with whatever person or thing, task is in front of me. And so that works better. And also, I think a big piece, maybe the first piece that had to be put into place, was that I am worthy of space in this world. I am I have value, and doggone it, I have a place to rest my head at night, and so I'm worthy of being here. I have something to say, and I have something to contribute. And so that deep emotional piece is really foundational as well.
I hear you, but I think something that I keep hearing from my clients, it really is, when you say I'm worthy, it kind of starts tipping the scale, because if I'm worthy and I'm not getting it, now I'm going to demand it, and when I'm demanding, I'm already in a power struggle of some sort. And I'm not saying it's always like that, and I'm not saying it has to be that way, but I want to know how do people, how do they understand, or how do they acknowledge for themselves that actually communication is not, we don't know how to do it actually.
Mhm.
And if I say something, and you are reacting in a way that is upsetting me, annoying me, hurting me, whatever, it could really be that I'm just not communicating, in the same wavelength. So how do we make it so that we operate from acceptance and patience, and not from, protections and hurt, and
Sure.
you know
Yeah, and I think, to put a better point on what I said earlier, was that um, I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of my own love. I'm worthy um, of just, as I said, just being me is enough. And self acceptance is a huge thing. So I remember one of these workshops. It was about learning to love yourself, and they were saying learning to love yourself begins with loving yourself even when you don't want to. That was way too big of a leap for me. I couldn't just go right to that. I had to begin by, well, maybe I can accept myself. I can accept I did these things. I failed on these other things. I didn't do this. My history is what it is. And,
Mhm.
and I know that I have a good heart, and maybe that's just a place to begin. And so the, that self acceptance and self worth. And so then when life is not happening maybe the way I want, it's more okay because I know that on the inside I'm okay, and I have, you know, I have a piece of the eternal, if you will, inside of me, that my soul, and that um, it's kind of beyond damage or or hurt in a way. And so I know I just have this center place that where everything's okay, and that maybe in order to feel okay, maybe I have to shrink down and just go into my center and find that emotional home and where everything's okay. And but just knowing that I have that always allows more to let the waves of life, not be so impactful.
Yeah. I think it's really, I think it is really, really interesting. I love what you're saying about self acceptance. I always say that to people because it's so interesting for me that when I speak with anyone, really, and so quickly they they show how they speak to themselves, and there's a lot of, you know, why did I do this? I'm so this, I'm so that, and really there is so much harshness in our internal voice, and I say actually, you know, you didn't do it on purpose, you know, start, you know, bring more compassion into your life, and that is a very important point to me, to bring this compassion when people talk about themselves.
Yeah,
um
100%. And that's really what the book Soul Statements is all about at its heart, is how we talk to ourselves on the inside. And we all have that voice that catastrophizes or
mm,
or looks for the negative and tries to reinforce it, like, well, this has got to be true because look at that. And whereas if you have a soul statement, either you spontaneously or you have it kind of ready to go for when you need it, you can just say, oh, you know what, I used to think that, or what's actually true is my heart is a trusted guide, or I'm stronger than my challenges, or I can call upon the grit inside of me. And so you have this recalibration of your surface thoughts with your inner knowing. And and so then that leads to the next thought being a better one, because you
mm,
said, you know what, I'm going to not accept the default voice in my head. I'm going to declare something that's more true and more empowered and more eternal about who I am and what I'm capable of.
I can see that. I can totally see how valid it is and how valued it is, because basically what you're offering isn't some sort of a rewiring. So when you notice that you have this negative thought, or you are maybe spiraling out of control, maybe you're having the same kind of conversations with yourself, here you are saying, hey, when you listen to that voice, here's something better, more empowering that you can say to yourself instead, and actually also change how you react to it. So you change your physical makings to, you know, to say to yourself something that is a little bit more accepting and loving.
That's right. That's right. I like to think of it like creating a new emotional flow chart. It's like, well, we're gonna flow this way instead. And so because you can declare the soul statement, but if the real power comes in when you can declare it and feel the emotion of it. So uh, there is strength in my center. I
Right.
can say that, I can think that, but if I really feel it, that's where the impact and the effect is.
And so far we're talking really about, you know, how we communicate with ourselves. How do we, when we notice something negative voice, or, you know, an emotional statement that is not serving us, how to change it and how to make, you know, a new one that is more empowered. But how do we tie this in with communication with other people.
Yeah. And so the more I'm grounded in my own, resource state, my own knowledge and certainty about, you know, um, like I said before, there is strength in my center. That the more it's just easier to be tolerant to a different opinion or something else someone's saying that maybe I don't agree with, but I know who I am. And so I have a better ability to hold space as needed and to not be, swung like a pendulum just because someone else is, not self-regulated or whatnot. And, and so and the soul statement isn't just a, kind of a one and done necessarily. It's just something you can keep coming back to. Like some people just have one and they use it in every instance, which is fine. Like they can say, you know what, I am enough. And that's their soul statement. And they just use that and it works. Whereas other people will have one more tailored to whatever is happening. Like my body knows how to heal itself. I have a certainty that's deeper than my thoughts. And so, um, and so it works for the pesky voices inside your head, but also the pesky voices out there too.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I want to know, especially, for the audience of this podcast, and a lot of the people are either suffering from chronic pain or chronic illness, or maybe there are families of people who are suffering. And I know that when you are in the suffering, and there is a lot of suffering, it's sometimes really hard to center or to ground or to see beyond the pain, because the pain is taking over everything. You get up in the morning and the pain is there, and it's not only the physical pain that you're feeling, there's also the fear of the pain and the frustrations and the basically being so fed up. And then I think people are more maybe triggered more easily if the pain is there. So what can we say to people that are suffering, or to their families? How can we help have better communication in these
Yeah.
cases?
Yeah. And it's not necessarily going to solve it by itself, but one of the practices that I found helpful, my coaching clients have found helpful, is to just offer love to your own heart. Offer empathy. Like, oh man, this is tough. It's, I acknowledge that my heart has to go through something right now. And just go, I see you, to your own heart. I feel you. I see you. I know it's tough. Yeah. And so, um, and sometimes I have in the book also, I call them spirit vows, where you make a vow to your own precious heart, something like, I vow to hold my heart as sacred and worthy of protection. I take you to be my body in this life and to treat you with care and respect to the best of my ability. And so, those kind of, it's to me, it's more than a commitment. It's a vow. It's just, and those kind of things, maybe it's not going to work for everyone, but for some people, they find it very powerful. And so, but just to me, a lot of it comes back to just offering yourself empathy first, before responding to anyone else, before accepting what someone else is selling, their opinion. Just offer yourself a little empathy and saying, I see that you're hurting. I see you, to your own heart. That's
And
one place to start.
I think that's a great reminder, actually. I had a young client. He was about 13, and he was sharing something with me. It wasn't about physical ailment, but it was an emotional one. And me being his coach, I was trying to show him to kind of go beyond that and show him the bigger picture of what was going on. And he said, "Oh, you don't understand." And I was like, "No, I do understand." But then, of course, I had to remind myself that he was just 13. And I said to him, "Look, I know, I understood, that you want me to say it sucks. it really is not fair. It really, really sucks that this is a situation that you have to go through. And I'm sorry for that. And when I said that, he relaxed. He was like, yes, you do get me. I was like, yeah, I do get you. And now let's continue. But of course, we needed to stay in that level for a while. And so when you say that, it's really, you can acknowledge this for yourself, but it's also, you can acknowledge it for others.
That's right.
And when you are in this situation, because I mean, I have people telling me a lot of the different things, that the conversation that they're having with their families when they're going through illness and pains and stuff. It's that communication and saying, hey, I don't need you to tell me it's going to be okay. I need you to just be with me. So hold that space for me to really, to know that you are here for me and not judging me or impatient with me, or something like that. So I like what you're saying, that you know you 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 can find the right level of communication that helps you get through it, for yourself and for others.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, you said that so well, and I can't overemphasize enough that just the power of just be with me. Just, as I said, just, you can be with your own, just be with your own heart, and then you're better able to just be with other people and just um, accept them, and at least acknowledge them. And the wonderful thing about acknowledgement is you don't have to be in 100% agreement to say, I get that this is distressing to you. That's a beautiful acknowledgement. You haven't agreed with anything, but you can say, yes, this is distressing. This is obviously distressing for you.
Yeah, so you find something that you agree on, and then yeah, it's yeah, and that helps to feel seen.
Yeah. And, I'm also a big fan of spending some quiet time, preferably daily, to maybe add a little water to your emotional and spiritual well, just to kind of touch who you really are and just feel of yourself, and whatever maybe spiritual practice you might have, just spending time at an altar or in nature, or just being with yourself, and maybe just a candle. And uh, I like the soul statement that there is a place at my center where I can tune out everything that's not me. And so those experiences of just touching a little bit more of ourselves on the inside, becoming a little bit more intimate with ourself, that then lends itself to a soul statement, to being more tolerant, and just being able to return to that place emotionally whenever you need to just offer yourself a little salve on the inside, and then of course it being easier to then um, be there for other people too.
But I think it's interesting. You said earlier about life happening for you and not to you. And of course, this is like the number one statement for when we want to show people that we are moving out of victimhood and basically into empowerment. When you have life happening for you, then it means that everything is a message, everything is a lesson, and you're absolutely going to grow from that. And when things happening to you, then you're definitely a victim, because there's no really nowhere else that you can take this kind of statement to. But how do you help people to really get behind this, to really get behind that, the notion that they can ground themselves, they can find love and empathy and self-love and all of that? Because sometimes this victimhood is so, well, stubborn, really.
Yeah. Well, I can remember working with this woman last year, and she had a pretty rough childhood, very rough childhood, and she had to kind of fend for herself in a lot of ways, emotionally in other ways. And it wasn't something you would ever want to experience on purpose,
Mm.
but she developed such grit inside of her, such resilience. And she's not in that situation anymore. She doesn't live with her mother. She's, a woman, 50ish years old, living on her own, doing very well. And so but she has that inner strength, and that just do what it takes to really make it through. And so she's gotten that. And it's like, did her angels and her decide before she arrived that you're going to have to go through this because you've got to get to this place of knowing about your inner resilience? I don't know, but for whatever reason, she's gotten at least a gift came out of it. And so, and if I'm being, buffeted by experiences, it always has seemed like that, spirit has been trying to get me to wake up to some aspect of me, some inner strength or some understanding that maybe I wouldn't have gotten anywhere close to if everything was just smooth and comfortable. I forget who it was. Somebody quoted a while back. They said, the enemy of progress is comfort.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I see all the time. When people come to me, and they say, I want to heal. And of course I don't heal them. I just help them to heal themselves. But a lot of the time in conversations, I notice that actually they don't really want to do it. I mean, they want to be better, but they don't want to change. They don't want to go through whatever it is because, of course, they're scared. And I get that. That's why I can't force people, and I can't convince them or anything. It has to come from them. But one of the most important question, I guess, that comes up in conversations is really, how is this a gift? Whatever it is that you're going through, it is definitely a gift. You might not want to call it like that. Maybe you still have some negative emotions attached to the situation. But when we can turn it around and show that actually it brought you something that you couldn't have seen without it, then we can call it a gift.
Yeah. And I think the more that you allow your heart to feel, in a healthy way, and the quicker you accelerate that process, versus just kind of walling yourself off from things, or being more defended. The more you can just live with an undefended heart and just an openness, the more you get the benefits quicker from whatever experience.
Yeah. So, Corey, I'm really curious about, share with us some success stories that, some people that you can share about, where they were when they came to you, and where they were when they left.
Well, I think of this one man who, he just had such extreme anxiety in social settings, and his life was such that it put him in these crowded situations, often social settings, where he'd just be emotionally, I mean, this is a weekly basis, and he'd be emotionally paralyzed, and then he'd remain kind of distraught for days after. And then it's, time to enter into one of these other social situations again. And the cycle was just this weekly, really unpleasant thing. And he was literally emotionally paralyzed, and he was at his wit's end, and he didn't know how to get out of it. He didn't know what there is, if anything, there was to do about it. He just was in a very stuck place. And and I explored with him, what's happening on the inside? What is he thinking about? What is he making this mean when, he's in these situations? And what he made it mean was he was less than anyone else there. He was less important, less valuable, less noticeable, less power. And he was just this small, invisible, feeling bad person. And just, I mean, this went on for years. and so he would repeat this story afterward. I was snubbed. I was looked down upon. Everyone was judging me negatively. And he would just recycle these thoughts and these feelings week after week. And so what I did is I helped him give himself a different message at those times, of self-doubt and self-deprecation and self um, shrinking. and and so I worked with him. I went into a little meditation with him, and to help him come up with what I mean, it's not, I don't have his answers, but I helped him through a meditation arrive at his own answer. And so what he did was, when he practiced ahead of time with me, and then he would into this situation, and he would look around and he would say, I'm enough. And these people are lucky to meet me. And that maybe doesn't sound like a big, powerful, giant thing to maybe you or me, but it was for him. It was humongous for him. It
Mm.
was this life paradigm shift, and like a whole being emotional posture adjustment. And so where he was once essentially invisible, ignored, people almost instantly were searching him out to talk to him, and being interested in him and listening to what he had to say. And he just kept repeating, these people are lucky to meet me. And he felt it in his heart, in his bones, in his cells. So he was aligned. You would appreciate that as an alignment coach. He was aligned with that. His cells were vibrating to it. Like, yeah, that is exactly true. And so his life changed overnight, and
Mm.
life got good. So that was really fun for me. And so, and it was interesting too, because I only worked with him 3 times. He never needed to see me again. He was good to go. He was
Yeah.
on his way.
Yeah, and this is wonderful. I mean, I definitely know these stories from my own clients. It's so interesting how it's exactly that. We recycle the story.
Mhm.
We come to that place, and sometimes we know that we don't know. We know that we don't like where we are at, and we're thinking, I wish I could change, but we don't know how to, so we just keep doing the same. But
Mhm.
when people come, like you say, when they share the story, and then you can see, you can see so clearly where they're telling themselves this story, when they're repeating it and recycling it, and you can help them shift out of it just by changing one tiny little thing. This is so empowering, and yeah, definitely life changing. I can definitely sense that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's so rewarding,
Mm.
with my role to just be a part of it. It's just that, to me, that's what makes life great, is to be able to contribute to another human in such a powerful way.
Yeah, that is definitely amazing. And yeah, it's the ripple effect, right? You help one person, and then everything changes.
Mhm.
And it's nearly time for us to finish for the day. But tell me, what message would you like our listeners to stay with?
I would like to share the message that you can learn to call up the best part of you in a moment. Like, you can say, I am not my story. And the next right action then becomes obvious and easier when you're connected to your value and to what you value. So you can learn to call up the best part of you right now, right then.
Mm, I love that, and I just want to add to that something, because I always say that you know we have a subconscious mind which calls the shots, but it needs a command. It's a subjective mind, so it needs a command to tell us what to do. And so, to add to what you say, right? If you say, I'm going to call up the best version of me, and I'm going to basically ignore this, whatever situation is bringing me down, that's what you do. You're giving a new command to your subjective mind, and you do that. And there is a really wonderful story that I'm completely going to butcher because I don't remember the exact details, but a story of this one golf champion that was at the he was taking part in this really important tournament, like the one that was going to determine if he is the world champion or not. And he just had one more shot. I think, well, he had two shots to make, and he just made one of them, and it completely went the wrong way. And so his competitor was just walking past and saying, "Thank you for such a bad shot, because it seems very much that I'm going to win now." So this guy, you could literally see or feel how all of his confidence was just evaporating. And
Mm,
so his caddy was walking next to him and just kept saying to him, "You are the best golf player in the world. You are the best golf player in the world. You are the best golf player in the world." And of course, when he went to take the last shot, he made an incredible one, and of course he won the tournament. And they said that afterwards, in the taxi, the caddy was like very nervous. Is he going to sack me or not?
mhm.
And the guy turned around and said, "Oh, it's basically just because you reminded my subconscious mind that I'm the best player in the world, that actually I was able to take that shot, because when the other guy was walking past and telling me, thanking me for this bad shot, I never thought I was going to make it."
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was just a little story about how we can change, but I totally support and agree with what you just said.
Yeah, that's terrific. Yeah, you certainly get it. And the thing is that you know our circumstance doesn't have to change for us to change. And then we can be a little more empowered with everything else staying the same, and we can just uh, we're better off. Why not? Why not declare something awesome about yourself and say,
Exactly. You
I'm
don't
gonna
need a caddy. You can say
play.
it for yourself. And so tell us, you have your book. Tell us a little bit about your book.
My book, Soul Statements, A Love Coach's Guide to Successful Communication, is for persons who want to upgrade their experience of life, their intimacy with self, their inner relationships, their outer relationship, that core intimacy that comes from clarity of who and what and why you are. And I packed it full of very practical, accessible tips and tools on almost every page. And I just wanted it to be of huge value. I'm super happy with it. And it's just gives you shortcuts to access your innate wisdom, your core values, and turning that voice in your head into an ally.
It sounds amazing and so needed. I think everyone listening will recognize this voice that they have, and also how often it makes them feel stuck. And so yes, and you have a copy to show us, so that people, if they see it, and this is the book,
Right
Soul
there.
Statements.
Yep.
Wonderful.
I do.
Wonderful. Corey, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was wonderful talking with you and learning everything about the soul statement and the wisdom that you bring to the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And I'll just mention to everyone watching or listening that, of course, Corey's details are going to be here in the description. So please do feel free to follow him and get in touch and follow his work. Thank you so much.